9 in Toronto, Cable 8.
In tonight's news, chaos in China. Beijing residents are tense and frightened as confusion within army ranks and the continuing violence pushes the country towards civil war and the people into deep despair.
We think that we should live peacefully. We don't want the army. We don't want gunshots and the fight. And the army firing at the innocent people.
The CTV National News with Lloyd Robertson.
Good evening. Beijing remains in a state of siege tonight. Rumors of a bitter power struggle among aging leaders persist as reports of sporadic fighting between units of the People's Liberation Army sweep the city. As fear tightens its grip on the 10 million residents, shops are closed and shortages of food and fuel are becoming serious. Foreign residents are pouring out on every available flight. It is a city bracing itself for civil war. Our coverage begins with Jim Munson.
A column of tanks rolls down Shanggan Avenue from Tianamen Square, the killing grounds of Beijing. This remarkable event illustrates the courage of the students who are still fighting for democratic reform. Defiantly, he stands in front of the lead tank. A tense standoff. The tank moves, but so does a student. After a few moments, he clambers on board to lecture the tank commander. Before there is more violence, Beijing residents grab the student and hustle him down a side street. Tanks and troop movements are everywhere in the city. With the student movement being crushed in Tiananmen Square, there is now talk of a civil war. Chinese residents have reported seeing firefights between two factions in the People's Liberation Army. The 27th, which brutally carried out the government's orders, and the 38th Army, which are reluctant participants in this political power play. Abandoned, burnt-out vehicles litter the streets. Others are still on fire. As more tanks take up strategic locations at all corners of this city, helicopters fly overhead. There is confusion. Nobody knows which army has the biggest firepower. On state-run television, the announcers talk of the dregs of society who want to overthrow the government. There is no mention of the thousands of civilian deaths and injuries, only praise for the soldiers. On the streets, the people are saying, if you believe the government news, then all old ladies are counter-revolutionaries and babies are thugs. There is fear of what might happen next.
Are you angry, really, about this, incredible violence?
声援我们中国人民吧，
真的。
声援我们，一定要声援我们。
And I can hardly find any words to speak.
不是你说这部队部队签好直接对着好了。这么点小孩都死了。
People think.
这么点小孩都死了，有这么残忍不？这闹的没有。
We think that we should live peacefully. We don't want the army. We don't want gunshots and the fight. And the army firing at the innocent people.
A city under siege, a city paralyzed. There is no public transportation, and very few citizens are going to work. Beijing residents are putting up these barricades, but it is a futile exercise to stop the massive Chinese army.
Another convoy of army trucks moves into the city. This time, the students stop them. Some believe they can still convince the military to lay down its arms, but it is an illusion. At Beijing hospitals, the grim reality of what has happened here. With estimates of 3,000 dead and thousands more injured, there is no more room. On university campuses, the students are bracing themselves for an attack. They say they will resist. It is a testimony to their bravery. As one said, the People's Liberation Army may win this battle, but they have lost the war for the hearts and minds of ordinary Chinese. Jim Munson, CTV News, Beijing.
There were anti-government demonstrations in other parts of China today. In Shanghai, the country's largest city,